Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Building Brand Awareness and Driving Qualified Booth Traffic, How to Attract Enough of the Right Attendees to Your RSNA Exhibit. My name is John Jaworski. I'm the Director of Technical Exhibits for RSNA, and joining me today it will be Jefferson Davis, the President of Competitive Edge. Before we begin today's webinar, I want to highlight two online resources for RSNA exhibitors. First, we have the exhibitor webinar page. This page, you'll find a schedule of upcoming educational opportunities, including another great webinar hosted by Jefferson Davis on the subject of lead management. Secondly, we have an FAQ site on all topics for your planning for your RSNA needs, including quick answers to questions on booth designs, your housing registration needs, any freight questions, general operational questions, etc. So I encourage you to visit both of those pages while planning for your RSNA 2016 meeting. Please bookmark these pages and share with your colleagues because I think they're very informative resources for you to have handy. At this time, I would like to introduce Jefferson Davis. He's the President of Competitive Edge. He's a professional consultant, trainer, speaker, and author on trade show marketing for 30 years. Personally, he's exhibited at over 200 trade shows and is very result-focused in his activities. He's also generously offered each RSNA exhibitor a complimentary trade show turnaround consultation. And for this consultation, you'll find his information on this sheet at 800-700-6174 or email at jefferson@tradeshowturnaround.com. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jefferson Davis. Jefferson, thank you for this opportunity and this program, and it's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you, John. You know, in my career exhibiting at over 200 trade shows, the only time I felt like I heard from the show organizer was when they wanted a check or when they wanted to send me that big service kit telling me all that stuff I had to do. And really didn't want to do, right, but had to do. And so for everybody listening in here, how cool is it to be partnered with a great organization like RSNA who cares enough about us as exhibitors to not just rent us concrete and hope we figure it out, but to show us how to make it successful, how to make it profitable. And so John's had a big hand in getting this program online and keeping it going. And so thank you very much, John, for me and all the exhibitors. So let's jump in here today. Again, make sure you get your workbook, make sure you've got a pen, make sure you've got a calculator, turn off your email, turn off your cell phone, hang in with me here for these next 45 minutes. This webinar has been instrumental in helping my clients combine pull over $750 million of results from trade shows. Because for most of us as exhibitors, one of the biggest factors that's going to determine whether or not we succeed is, do we get enough of the right people to our exhibit and our events? That's what we're going to talk about. So let's start off with, what really drives business growth? Because we're all here together and we're all exhibiting at the RSNA annual meeting we want to grow our businesses, right? And so Peter Drucker, one of America's foremost management gurus, said it really well. He said, there's really only two things that drive revenue and business growth. Number one is marketing, and number two is innovation. He said that everything else is an expense. So if we think about marketing and we think about improving our marketing in terms of our exhibit marketing, then we bring innovation into it, really positioning our businesses for growth. And that's what we're talking about here today. So another one of my favorites, leading expert, love to listen to him, he said, what are the keys to marketing success? How do you actually create marketing that works? And Jim Rohn really boiled it down to the heart of the matter. He said, first of all, you got to have something good to say. You know, you can't just go out and say, visit Competitive Edge at booth 2484, right? You got to have something good to say. If you're using email to market and they see a subject line like that, unless they know you and already have an engagement, they're probably going to delete it. And then he said, you got to say it well. So you have to give careful thought to how you articulate your value proposition, the reason why out of 600, 700, 800 booths why an attendee should put your company on their agenda. Then you have to say it often. Once is never enough. It's just not enough. You know, for some exhibitors who do market, they'll use one media. And that's where I'll come in and add and build upon Jim's great foundation is say it through multiple media. So take a look on the screen here, and I would like to ask you, look at this image, look in your workbook, and I would like to ask you, how many media do you currently use to promote your exhibit? I'm going to bring a poll up now. This image is in your workbook. Fastest fingers pick the radio dial button that applies. How many media do you currently use to market your exhibit? I'll give you just a moment. Okay, we've got about 60% of you have voted. I'll give you just another minute here. Fastest fingers, I'm looking for 80% plus, and then I'm going to share the results. We're up at 70%. I'll give you just another moment. If you haven't tuned in yet, tune out your distractions. Work with me here. This is going to be a great session. All right, here we go on 3, 2, 1. Well, I'm encouraged that nobody on this webinar said 0. Usually 5, 10, 15% say, well, we're not really doing anything. 18% of us were in that 1 to 2. 15% of us were in that 7+ range. So I think the question is, how many media should we use? My thoughts on that are as many media as you have the bandwidth, the time, and the budget, and the expertise to execute. So the more, the merrier. Really, I want to use as many of these as possible. I think my goal in marketing my company to build brand awareness and to drive qualified booth traffic is to be omnipresent. I'm everywhere you look, right? Everywhere. I go to the medical journal, there you are. I go to the RSNA media, there you are. I look at my email, there you are. I go to my mailbox, there you are. I go to my social media account, there you are. So the more you can use, the better. All right, so let's keep on rolling here. So succeeding, we've been talking over the years, about, trade show ROI, right? If your exhibit program's working, it does two things. It visibly and directly supports your core business objectives, and it delivers measurable financial value beyond cost. And if your exhibit program's working, it's doing those two things well. But to do that, we got to carve out more time for the strategy. We all get caught in what I call the logistics trap. And it sounds like this. Get the space, get the booth, get the graphics, get the equipment, get the people, ship it, get it to the convention center, set it up, tear it down, send it home, and do all that on time and on budget, right? And we call that pre-show planning. I actually call that dealing with logistics. And you got to do it, right? There's no argument you got to do it. We know that. But all it guarantees is that your booth, your products, and your people show up. It doesn't guarantee you're going to get anything from it. So what we got to do is spend more time on the stuff we're talking about today. Critical success factors. Number 1, begin with the end in mind. The major question, write this down. This is not in the workbook, write this down. The major question that I think every company should ask and answer is this. When the doors close on the RSNA annual meeting, 90 days, 180 days after the meeting, how will we know we succeeded? In the area of marketing, in the area of sales, in the area of customer relationship management, how will we know we succeeded? And define your outcomes. And then you just got to work backwards and reverse engineer them. Create an action plan and execute. And by the way, we've got some content up on the RSNA webinar page about that topic for a deeper dive. Today, what we're talking about is the second critical success factor, is what I like to call selective attraction. So what we're really trying to do here is identify who are the right people, how much is enough, what are we going to do between now and when we arrive at the RSNA annual meeting so we are in the mind, write this phrase down, it's got a great narrative transport, in the mind, on the agenda of enough of the right people. You win the game before kickoff if you accomplish that. And that's what selective attraction is about. Not everybody that attends RSNA is your ideal visitor. And honestly, you or me or none of us could handle the thousands and thousands and thousands of attendees. So we got to sift through this crowd, and we got to figure out who's the right people for us. What are we going to do to get them to show, get them into our exhibit? That's what we're going to deep dive on that today. But we also have to deal with managing the visitor experience. So we have to look at our exhibit, the imagery, the copy. We got to look at our product presentation, our demonstrations, how are we showing, telling, engaging attendees around our products and services. And we got to look at our staff, our people. Do we have enough people, right? Do we have a good mix of people? Are they well trained, and are they effective in this time-pressured, crazy environment of a trade show? But we got to manage the visitor experience, number 3. And then number 4, critical success factor, follow through and measurement. What we're really talking about here is getting visitors to commit to that clear next step and following through to make sure some action spins off that next step, ideally purchasing. Then we measure our results. We measure our performance, and we measure the financial value we got from the show, and we report this to our team and to our management. And I tell you what, if you do all 4 of these things well, you not only succeed at RSNA, you succeed at every show you do. So here's a question for you right now. I would like you, in your workbook near this, to score your company on a 1 to 5 in each of these 4 factors. A 5 is very effective. A 1 is ineffective. I'd like you to score yourself on how well you feel your company's managing outcomes, how well they're managing selective attraction, how well they're managing the visitor experience, and how well they're managing follow-through and measurement. Okay? And anywhere that you score below a 4, that's the limiting factor. That is the thing that's going to limit the amount of results you get from RSNA and all shows you do. It's kind of like Dr. Phil says on his show. He says, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. And I'm like, that makes great sense, right? So what do you need to do? Because I tell you, if you do these 4 things well, you succeed, period. If you neglect, overlook, half step, skip through any one of these 4, you're going to struggle. That's just how it is. It's how this trade show thing is, right? Okay, so let's go to our second poll of the day. We're going to talk a little bit about right now about driving qualified traffic. And what I'd like to hear is, what factor do you feel is most important in driving traffic to your exhibit at RSNA? What do you feel is the single most important factor? You can only pick one. Pick the one that applies. I'll give you just a moment. Fastest fingers. Okay, we're at about 70%. Those of you who haven't pressed one yet, please go ahead and do so, and I'll give you just a moment. I'll count us down on 3, 2, 1. 80%. Thank you. Thank you. Here we go. Let's take a look at what's happening. So 9% of us felt that our booth location was the most important factor. You know, RSNA is a big show, and your location can play a role, but tell you what, something I learned about 15 years ago that has made a big difference for me and all my clients. I don't think we should ever pin or hang the success of our exhibit on our physical location. I also don't think that we should necessarily blame our location on our inability to get results. Because here's the thing, all right? If you do the stuff we're talking about here today, and you're in the mind and on the agenda of the right people, you're going to get your fair share of traffic, and it doesn't matter if you're front and center or it doesn't matter if you're all the way in the North Hall, all the way to the back aisle of, the back of aisle 100. Doesn't matter. Because the right people that you've already engaged with will come to find you, especially if you deliver a good value proposition and have a great experience. So here's the thing. Some locations are better than others, but never let it be the reason you succeed or never let it be the reason you fail. Quality of product service. 7% of you said that. That's a rite of passage. You kind of have to have that to even be in the game. If you don't have a good quality product and back it up with service, you're probably not going to be around that long, So that's a factor in your business success and the reputation of your company. There are some companies, given their market share and their brand strength, that just magnetically attract people no matter where they go. But for most of us, the majority, 95% plus, it's going to be what we do before and when we're at the show to market. So I agree with the 73% who are there, and those others are kind of rite of passages. And the reason why this marketing thing is so important, so important, is because trade show attendee behaviors have changed radically over the last several years, and a lot of exhibitors have not either kept up with these changes or they haven't adapted their exhibit program. So let me highlight a few of the changes quickly here. Okay, number one, they're registering closer to the meeting. Maybe they used to register 2-3 months out. Now they might be registering 2 or 3 weeks out. Okay. Next is they tend to be spending fewer number of total days at the meeting. It used to be in the range of 2.5 to 3.9 days. Now it's down to 1.5 to 2.4. The average attendee has chopped 1.5 days off their time at the meeting. Now listen carefully. It's not that they don't value their time there. They do. But like you, me, and everyone else, they've got to do so much more. And they got a boss back at the office saying, you're going where, when, and you're going to do what? What are you going to learn? What are you going to bring back? How are you going to help our practice? So there's more pressure for them. And that's actually a good thing because our attendees are coming with eyes and ears wide open looking for more content. They're looking for useful takeaway information that they can take back to the practice, to the clinic. They're looking for it. Okay, and if you got it and you just dangle it in front of them in the right media, they'll come running. Number 4, they're planning their agenda. 3 out of 4 arrive with a specific firm agenda. They know what educational sessions they're attending. They know where their blocks of time in the exhibit hall are. They got a list of exhibitors they plan on seeing. They got questions they want to get answers for. And listen carefully to number 5 here. If you get nothing else out of what I'm telling you on this slide, number 5 is a game changer. The average attendee will stop and cross the carpet line of 26 to 31 exhibits on average. Okay? So I want you to think about how many exhibiting companies are in RSNA. And I want you to really think about this next one. Half of their exhibit stops are pre-planned. So this is a lot of content here. This is a lot of important information. And what blows me away, 25 years in the business here as a trainer consultant, is that in spite of all this, less than 20% of exhibitors are executing a well-designed pre-show marketing plan. Most of them are doing what I call exhibiting by hope. They rent space, they show up, and they hope. I learned years ago the fastest way to succeed is find out what the people that fail are doing, and don't do that, right? The fastest way to succeed is find out what people that are succeeding are doing and do that, right? I'm telling you, the top 20% who are doing good pre-marketing are winning the exhibiting game. The bottom 80% are struggling, right? So we got to make a choice. Where do we want to be here? We want to be in the top 20 or the bottom 80? I think I know where you want to be because you're here today. So let's keep rocking on this. So I'm going to walk you through, in a very rapid-fire pace here, a model that I've built and I've been applying with clients for 25 years. Not only have I built it, we've been refining it and improving it. And this process has been the turnaround for many, 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 many companies. Okay, so let's go through it. Number 1, it begins with why are you exhibiting? So what I want you to think about right now, what are your top 3 reasons or goals? Why are you exhibiting at RSNA? Is it about visibility, awareness, Is it about positioning, differentiation? Is it about leads, capturing leads? Is it about thought leadership? Is it about providing a really hands-on experiential education opportunity for your target audience? Got a new product, got a new service? Why are you exhibiting? I want you to drill it down to your top 3. I want you to put it in the order of priority. If you could only do one, what would it be? If you could add a second, what would it be? And if you could add a third, what would it be? So this will help you kind of focus and channel everything else, not only in this webinar, but everything else in your entire exhibit program to make sure everything you're doing, every dollar, every hour, is directly supporting your top 3 reasons to goals. Okay. All right, so number 2, second step. Look at the numbers on the screen here. RSNA has 51,000 attendees. That's a lot of attendees. 26,000 of them are healthcare professionals, including executives and staff. 16,000 plus are radiologists. They're coming from 130 companies. Now here's the thing. Not all those people are your ideal visitor, nor could you handle all of them or even a fraction of them. So let's go to work on right now who are the right people for you. So I want you to think about specialties. I want you to think about the type of facilities they work in. I want you to think about job function and title. Maybe geography plays a role in terms of the Northeast, Southwest, internationally, maybe certain countries. Maybe size of the practice or the clinic in terms of revenue or number of patients or number of treatment, whatever, right, size, number of facilities, and other. Okay, so the assignment, you have your first action item is what are your top 3 reasons for exhibiting? Clarify. Your second one is I want you to create a written profile. And if you want more information on this, look at the attendee profile at rsna.org/registration_profile.aspx. It's on the screen here. You can even take a deeper dive on the attendee profile. Clarity is power. Focus is power. Not everybody is your target. Define who is and commit between now and showtime to get in the mind and on the agenda of enough of these people, and you've won the game before kickoff. When you arrive, when it's wheels down, you can take a deep breath and smile because you have got this game won before you ever show up. Very few exhibitors can say that. Okay? Now, there's another group that I want you to target. You already have this group internally, but many exhibitors are missing it. I call it the CPS triangle. Okay? So here's what I want you to do. Identify all existing active and recently inactive customers that are likely to attend RSNA or are within the geographical striking distance. Okay? You're going to reach out to them and invite them to come to the show and come see you. Here's the rule. You should never go into a key trade show like this without touching your customers. Why? Because if you're not, the competition is. And if one of your customers shows up at RSNA because of the result of an invitation from a competitor and you didn't do anything, now you got problems. You see, one thing you got to think about is that customers are using trade shows to revalidate existing buying relationships. They're asking, are you still the best overall source? Quality, price, service. Is there better, cheaper, faster, safer, greener, more efficient, right? So they're asking that. So start with your customers. Second, quick cash flow. I'm talking return on investment. Sometimes by the closing time, often within 30 days of show closing time, is prospects that are in your sales pipeline. Salespeople overlook this. I'm telling you, they overlook it. They view trade shows as a speed bump. They're going to take me out of my territory, drop me in that cold hard concrete, make me stand around and talk to all these look-yous, right? And they come to the show to do their time in the booth. Here's what I want you to ask them to do. Sit down and make a list of all the prospects that are in their sales pipeline, get them to the show, and with one goal, to move them to the next step in the sales cycle. And the third part of the triangle is your profile match, suspects and profile matches. All we're trying to do here is put a face with a face and get a meeting of the minds. Now here's how you bring this into action, okay? About 6 to 8 weeks before RSNA, have your sales management reach out to your team, ask them to build and submit a list of customer prospect suspects. Tell them to set an outcome for each name, then ask the sales team to have a personal contact 3 times before the show. And it seems to work best when you use multiple media. What they're trying to get is a confirmed appointment or a verbal commitment. And if you really want to prime the pump and get everybody dialed in, put a contest in play. The sales rep that gets the highest percentage of their CPS list to the show and to our booth wins X. You'll have a motivated sales team that is aggressively promoting to fill your booth up and competing against one another to win something. I've had many companies turn their trade show program around on this single strategy, CPS, Customer Prospect Suspect. All right. I got a question for you on lists here, on the attendee lists. I want to do another poll here. Do you currently use pre-registered attendee mailing lists when they're available? The poll's live now. You got a yes or no answer here. I'll give you just a moment to do that. Do you use them? Yes or no? We're at about 60%. Give you just another moment here. And these results are looking quite interesting. 72%. A few of you have fallen off. Come back on. Yay, we're back at 80. Thank you so much. Here we go. Let me share. So 64% of you do. Congratulations. 36% of you don't. Of the 36% who don't, I would be curious to hear why you don't. Experian, last time I talked to Experian, who manages attendee reg lists for a lot of shows, they told me in the average show, 9% of exhibitors acquire and use the pre-registered attendee list, meaning 91% don't. There's that success rule again, right? Find out what the unsuccessful are doing and don't do it. It rears its ugly head all the time, all around the place. So congratulations to the 64% who do, the 34% who don't. Number one, you're going to have a chance to win a free one by being here today if you complete the survey. But I'd be curious to hear of those of you who don't, why you don't. If you want to submit to me through your question queue, I will not share your name or anything. I'm just curious to hear why you don't use the pre-registered attendee list. Okay. Now, best list sources. Number one is the pre-reg, right? Number two is previous or post-show lists. Number three is your house list, your customer prospect suspect list. Number four is people that have visited your booth at this show or other similar shows. Number five is anybody who's reached out to your company over the last 3 to 6 months or more, depending on your sales cycle. Distribution channel partner lists, medical journal, trade publication readership lists. These are your best sources, and RSNA makes the pre-registered list available. It's a mail-only list, 15 cents a name. You could drill that down to your profile, $75 minimum. Now, it's a mail-only list, but I'm cool with that. You know why? Because the clutter in the mailbox is really light, which we're going to talk about in a moment here. You do have to prepare the mailer, have it submitted and approved by RSNA, and use a third-party mail house. And you got to do this by October 28th, which is, you're in pretty good shape. We're 2 months out here. We're ahead of the curve. My suggestion is to everybody on this webinar, I would get a hold of this list. Look where it ranks on the quality and best trade show list. Numero uno. What's the cost? Not much. 15 cents a name, right? And by the way, that's a direct response list. That's not a compiled list. The way they got on this list was by pre-registering for the show. Excellent. Okay. Grab your pen and calculator right now. I'll walk you through one of the most important formulas of exhibiting. It's called exhibit interaction capacity. Write this down. Trade shows are about face and next. If you want to boil it down to the heart of the matter, that's what it's about, face and next. Right? So here's the thing. You have a very limited amount of capacity for face-to-face interaction. So we got to figure out what that is. So this formula will help you do that. And here's what it looks like. RSNA has 32 exhibiting hours, total exhibiting hours, where they're open. Write your number, not mine here. How many booth staff going to be in your booth on average for the purpose of talking to visitors? If you're in a 10 by 10 booth, you got space for 2, maybe 3. Notice the footnote here, 50 square feet per staffer. Next, that will give you your total staff hours. Next, set a firm target number of interactions per hour per booth staff. 3 is conservative, 4 is moderate, 5 is aggressive. Pick one of those numbers, not the range, and multiply them together, and you have what I call your magic number. So if you're, in this example, doing it conservative, you're targeting 192 face-to-face interactions during RSNA. If you're doing it aggressive, you're targeting 320. So here's the big idea. What I want you to do between now and when your company arrives at RSNA is get in the mind, get on the agenda of the best 192 or the best 320. And also, remember our previous conversation about lists? Make your list count 3 to 5 times your exhibit interaction capacity. You're not going to get 100% response. You can get 20, 30, 40% response if you're really doing a good campaign, which I'll walk you through in a minute here. Okay, so know this number, because, and if you don't like the number, you can change the variables. You can't change the number of hours in the show. That's fixed. You can change the number of booth staff within reason. You can influence the number of interactions per hour per staffer with exhibit staff training on how to manage an interaction and having a great design booth and having a good pre-show marketing campaign. You can influence that number, but lock in on this number. Okay, now I want to ask another poll here. What percent of your exhibit budget, your total budget, what percentage of that do you currently allocate toward promoting your exhibit? Fastest fingers. This is an excellent group of exhibitors on this webinar. You're very engaged and responsive, and I really appreciate that. I'm going to share the numbers here in a moment. We've been hitting over 80% on all of our polls, and it looks like we're on the way to that number right now if a few more of you press the button. $77. All right, here we go. Let me share the results. I think it's good that you see where you're at and you can benchmark it. So it looks like the lion's share is in the 6 to 9 percentage points. And that's good, right? And none of you are at 0. Thank goodness, right? 26% of you are at 15% plus. So I think that really begs the question, how much should we allocate? Well, here's what the average exhibitor is doing. 2014 research. The average exhibitor is allocating 13%. By the way, that number has gone up from 7.5% in just 2 years. So remember my find out what the average is doing and do better than that rule? I would suggest you come over here, write down in step 4. Make sure you have enough resources to promote your exhibit properly. So write down your total show budget investment, multiply it by at least 1.5 or 15%, and therefore set that as your minimum budget. Now, there are situations where it should be more than 15, sometimes much higher than 15. It's a really big show. You got a really small booth. You're not too happy about where you're located. You're concerned. The match of the show, the importance or the audience match is perfect. Those are all scenarios where you would want to allocate even more. Okay, so so what I want you to do is do this formula. And those of you that were below 15, I want you to go back to your boss. And here's what I want you to tell your boss. Okay, show them the chart. The average exhibitor allocates 13. Do we really want to be average, right? We're just a little above average. And then take them back to the chart on attendee behaviors, or her, take him or her, to that chart and show them how attendee behaviors have changed. And, you know, because I can make a very accurate prediction off of this chart. You see all those expense areas? Exhibit space, exhibit, transportation, show services, travel, all of those? I can guarantee if you don't get enough of the right people to your booth, they end up as an expense. I can also make you a promise. If you do get enough of the right people to your booth, all of those will end up as an investment. It's the difference between an investment or an expense. This is one of the critical factors that's going to determine it. Okay, so let's keep going. Step 5, we got much ground to cover here, but we're moving right along. We're cranking. All right. So now what we got to do is, it's one thing to market, pre-market. It's another thing to market well. I got an email last week that said, going to CEDIA, which is a show coming up, stop by booth 2484. What do you think I did with the email? I deleted it. Why? There was nothing, right? CEDIA, booth 2484. I don't know anything. I'm not familiar with who sent this, right? There's not a value proposition. I'm busy. You, me, everybody else gets 147 emails a day, according to the research. Okay, so we got to create good content. Let me give you some direction on how to really tighten up your content and the value proposition for driving people to your traffic. So here we go. Okay, so number one, you got to grab my attention. You got to cut through the cloud and the fog and the clutter. And there's 4 ways to do that. NEW, when it comes to trade shows, is a magnet. It's the number one reason attendees hit the exhibit floor. If you got something new, lead with new. Tell you what else will grab their attention. Problems. Problems that they are experiencing, they can relate with, so a problematic approach. Another thing that grabs people's attention is familiar. You know, imagery and copy and words and things that you're familiar with. Another thing that grabs people's attention is unusual. Using an unusual, like an interruptive style, you know. You think about unusual things from, remember the E-Trade babies? Those babies that were so cute and talked and were so smart. That was unusual, but they were actually combining familiar, because we all know what babies are, along with unusual. So they had a double whammy in there. But job one is you've got to grab my attention. 90% of what they see, they don't even process. Job 2, you got to create interest. Here's how to really bring interest into your copy. Sit down with your sales, marketing, and product management team and ask this major question. What situations would be happening in the radiology lab that would force people to think about what we offer? What situations? If you can get your top 3 situations clarified, all you have to do in your pre-marketing is dangle your situations. I'm telling you, if that situation is relevant to them, they'll notice it. If it's important to them, they'll engage. But it requires you being crystal clear about your situation. You know, don't just say, you know, competitive edge, quality exhibitor service since 1991, platitude, right? Quality, price, service, platitude. Why? Everybody's saying it, right? So it's much better to use new or problematic as your 2 best hooks, I think. Then position visiting your exhibit as a place to see things, do things, learn something, get something by visiting. Here's the trade show value proposition template. Okay, here we go. Now you can go 2 angles. You can take the problem approach and or the opportunity. Tired of, frustrated with, worried about, concerned about, struggling with, what? The problem, dangle it. Or interested in, curious about, want to learn more about. And you could use both. One of your messages could use the problem approach. The other could use the opportunity. Here we go. Give us 5 minutes at RSNA, the booth number, right? You will see, you'll do, you will learn, oh, by the way, you'll get. That is the essence of a good value proposition, and that can be delivered through email, social media, mail, print, digital signage, could be anywhere. But your assignment here is to get your content together so you have the power to cut through the clutter and show your audience that you know their pain points and that visiting your booth is a solution to their pain points. So we covered a lot of ground here. I'm going to catch my breath here. All 5 of those, the 5 first steps, from your exhibiting goals to the identification of your target visitor, to the exhibit interaction capacity, to identifying your lists, and then figuring out your content, right, your value proposition. Those are all set up steps. So what I want you to think about right now is what questions do you have? And as a question flashes in your mind, I want you to go to your question queue and type in a question. And by the way, there's no such thing as a dumb question, except the one that you ask or don't the one that you don't want to ask, okay? All right, so because I have a lot to cover, I'm going to give you a few more minutes to do that, and I'm going to get back in the copy, and then I'm going to come on the back end. But please submit a question. We all learn when somebody asks a question. We all learn. I learn more when you ask questions. All right, so let's keep rocking here. Step number 6. Okay, so now what we got to do, all of that groundwork we did in steps 1 through 5, we got to bring it together. So we have to analyze and select what marketing media we're going to use. So we got to think about the 4 C's. The message has to be captivating. The design theme, the copy, the imagery, the colors, font treatment, very consistent throughout the campaign. People always ask me, Jefferson, what is the single best media for marketing my exhibit? And my answer is always the same. There is no single best. The magic is in the mix. I want to use a combination of RSNA stuff, industry, radiology industry stuff, and direct marketing to my contact stuff. I want to mix those 3 to create the perfect blend, or the marketing cocktail, if you will, right? And remember, in your pre-marketing, all you have to communicate is what, why, who, and where and how to find you. Hey, what we do, why you should care, who you are, and where and how to find you. That's it. It's not to tell the whole story, right? So creative frequency is the 4th C. You want to try to land 3 direct touches with your audience in the weeks leading up to showtime. So we're back to the chart again. How many media did you use and how many should you use? Here's another way to think about the chart, which is the buckets or the baskets. So you're going to have like print, you're going to have display type advertising. And this would be show specific, and it would be an industry specific media, and it may also be an at show media and signage. Okay, and then you're going to think about PR. Advertising you pay for, publicity you pray for, right? And the magic of ads and PR together is extremely powerful. Then you want to think about electronic media, from email to internet to websites, landing pages, microsites, social media, mobile apps. And then don't forget the mailbox, right? The clutter in the mailbox has gotten really, really light. Great time to be back there. Everyone says, Jefferson, that's old school. Yeah, I'll tell you it's old school, but it's working better than email nowadays. Why? Because the clutter's in the email box. Okay, number 5. And then personal contact. So if you're going to run a world-class integrated pre-show marketing campaign, you're going to have 1 or 2 things going in all of these areas. Now you're covering the map, if you will. Okay? So there's some low-cost and some high-impact things you want to fold into your plan. When it comes to mail today, the ability to personalize with digital printing and do short-run custom mailers like oversized postcards, powerful tool. URLs, if you're going to set up a landing page or a microsite or try to push them to a page on your website, a personalized URL, a PURL, is an extremely powerful way to get a higher click-through rate. Landing pages, microsites, you could have a quick survey, answer 5 questions. You could have need assessment. You could have teasers about what's going to be happening at the show and in your booth. You could also have it where they have the ability to preset their appointment through the microsite. Video. You could have short video clips on YouTube that you're putting links. There's also audio that you can do. Voice messaging, not robocalling, having a message land in their voicemail box. Obviously, social media and blogs. Both, if you use content marketing and you've got a blog, or you know of subject matter experts who are talking about a problem that you can link to theirs. And so fold as many of these high-impact, low-cost medias into your campaign, and you're going to have a really successful campaign. Okay, now email best practices. I'm going to throw these up quick because we're covering a lot of ground fast. Use house opt-in lists. When you're mailing for the show, make sure the show name's in the subject line. Okay, and that subject line is 90% of the effectiveness. I suggest testing different subject lines. Hey, concerned about, frustrated with, interested in, curious about, want to know more about. Question subject lines work well too because they engage the mind. Keep your the characters about 75 characters. Keep your body copy short, 120 words. Do not send attachments with outbound promotional emails. Have a crystal clear and well-placed call to action. Hey, when it comes to mail, I said earlier, be where the competition is, okay? So make sure you got the show logo and the name on the envelope of the card. Variable data fields, no-brainer. Bigger, better. I'm not doing a 4-inch by 6-inch card. I'm doing a 5.5 by 8.5 at least. Okay, if I really want you to see my invitation, I'll FedEx it to you. I'll guarantee that gets opened. Priority mail gets opened at a high clip too, right? You got to have a very quick read to all of this, head, subhead, bullets, and call to action. Okay, and remember if you do postcards, that the mailing panel is the front of the card. A lot of people forget this, and they try to do all the heavy lifting on the back. If you really want to get your mailer noticed and opened, lumpy, something inside, the Cracker Jack approach, right? There's a little gift inside the box, and multiple sequenced that build a story or talk about multiple problems. You might identify 3 problems, and you might build a sequence 3-part mailer. Each one touches a different problem. You probably don't know what problem they're struggling with. Okay? Social media. The big thing here, I think, is to know what channels your audience are engaging. You know, everyone says if you're not on Twitter and you're not on Facebook, you're in a cave. Not necessarily. What I would do is poll my top 50 customers and ask them, what social media channels are they using for business? That would tell me all I needed to know, right? And remember, when you do get there, it's about conversation. It's not real hard pitch, hard direct sell. Most of the social medias have the ability to create event pages. Powerful. I'm big on looking where my customers, what groups they're in, and making sure we're joining all those groups. We have someone monitoring conversations and adding to and commenting. It's the perfect place to showcase your knowledge, expertise, get you seen as the go-to expert in your area, and sharing content of others that is relevant, all these social media practices. So what I'd like to do right now is, we're not here to sell you anything today. That is obviously clear by this point, but I think it's important that you have a high-level awareness of what RSNA gives you. They give you free stuff and what's available. So with that, I'm going to bring John back on for just a quick overview of RSNA's free exhibitor marketing ops and a few of the advertising and sponsorship ops. John?
Thanks, Jefferson. Thanks for the informative webinar so far. Hope everybody's enjoying it. I do want to share a couple opportunities that RSNA offers all companies. RSNA is very interested and invested in your success at RSNA 2016. I'd like to share some of the marketing opportunities which do not cost you a penny. The first thing we offer all exhibiting companies is a complimentary online exhibitor listing. So please take advantage of that, populate that with your company description, include the products and services that will be displayed at your booth. Last year we had almost 250,000 unique visits to the website and the meeting app, so it's definitely highly visible and used by our attendees. Create your show profile show specific. Some profiles are generic, probably use show to show. It would be great if you could customize that to RSNA and what you'll be showcasing at your booth to drive attendees to see your products and services at the meeting. Next thing I'd like to point out is that we offer all exhibiting companies complimentary guest passes for your top customers. So depending on the size of your booth, you'll receive between 5 to 20 complimentary guest passes to utilize for your top customers. So definitely use that. It's a great tool and a great perk for your attendees and for your staff. Also, submit a photo or a description for publication in the RSNA Technical Exhibits Focus section. This is a subsection of the Daily Bulletin, which is the RSNA Daily Paper. Here we'll publish each day new products that are being promoted inside of the exhibition. It's limited to only 120 submissions total. I think the deadline is early October, so please review and take a look at that. You'll find the submission form inside the service kit under promotional and marketing opportunities. Use the RSNA promotional materials that we provide. We offer a host of different logos and banners that you can use in your company emails, your company newsletters, or various promotions that you may have for the annual meeting. Let all your customers know you'll be at the RSNA meeting and looking forward to see them there. We also have different samples for them to use, templates for an email blast. Maybe download a sample postcard we have if you don't have a graphics design team that can do this for you. We have some templates that you can just download from our website, plug in your personal information, you're ready to go with promoting your booth. Finally, as Jefferson mentioned, use social media. RSNA does have about 26,000 followers on Twitter. Last year, RSNA was trending during the RSNA annual meeting. So when you tweet at RSNA, use hashtag RSNA16, and you'll be in our stream of information about the show. And finally, we have a newsroom available on site. Take advantage of that. We have over 100 press from across the world that will be attending our meeting. Put your company literature within the newsroom. You can drop that off starting on Saturday before the show opens. Check periodically, restock it if needed. And it's a great free way to get your information in front of the press attending our show. Next, we do have paid advertising. We have a department under corporate relations that handles different opportunities for exhibitors. We have many high visible opportunities still available. They range from sponsored educational opportunities to booth traffic drivers, to different signage at McCormick Place or print publications or digital opportunities. So take a look at our corporate website and find out what may be a fit for you. We have a couple high visible opportunities available, including the 5K fun run. This fun run is held during the annual meeting and provides sponsorship recognition before, during, and after the event. We also have a new location for the professional portrait studio. Last year it was located in the Lakeside Center in our services area. We moved it to the Grand Concourse between halls A and B, the technical exhibits, and it's a spot for attendees to get a professional portrait to use for their social media, and companies who decide to sponsor, or a company that decides to sponsor, who can have branded messaging throughout this activity. So another good option to consider. We also have different electronic signage available, hanging signs in the exhibit halls, if that's something that may be interested you. But a low-cost opportunity for you to consider would be to upgrade your online exhibitor listing. I think the price starts at $5.95, and here you heard the traffic that we have at our site. It's pretty good, I think, 250,000 unique, well, I would say unique visits, but you visits to our website where you can add logos, graphics, products, documents, social media links to your listing, and really enhance your profile to attendees. And obviously it's a very highly sought resource, and it's used both online and our meeting app. Again, Jacqueline Kelly in our corporate relations department can assist you further. You can find her contact information on the screen. Again, if you have any other questions about participating, I'm always available. My team is available here to assist you as well too. And thanks for your time here, Jefferson, and look forward to a continued discussion you have here.
All right. Thank you, John. And hey, you know, the best advice I can give everybody listening to this webinar is to view RSNA as your marketing partner. Think about your goals. Think about your target audience. Think about your budget. Think about what you've done that's worked and what hasn't worked. And pick up the phone and call Jacqueline. She doesn't bite. She's a great person. Her job is really to help you succeed. And if you have ideas for sponsorships and things that maybe we haven't considered, let us know. We'd be happy to consider that. So let's bring this thing home now. We're going to put it all together, okay? I stepped back and I said, okay, so I'm a small exhibitor. I'm in a 10 by 10 booth. My floor space investment is $3,450. Using the 3 to 5 times budget rule, I should be budgeting $10,000 to $17,000. I need to pull 15% of that out to market my booth. My goals are twofold. I'm trying to drive traffic to generate leads, and I need to be more visible in the market. So what would I do? Well, I'm going to run that customer prospect suspect strategy. That's in-house, doesn't cost me anything. I'm going to rent the pre-registered attendee list, drill down to my profile match, and I'm going to mail an oversized, really well-designed postcard. I'm going to write an exhibitor listing that's not just saying, hey, we do this and that since 1912, but it gives them a compelling reason to visit, and I'm probably going to upgrade that listing. It's only $5.95, so I think that fits in my budget here. And then I'm going to leverage, I'm going to promote through all my social media channels, but I'm going to, get involved with the RSNA hashtag. I'm going to place the show logo on my electronic and print media, and then the guest vouchers. I'm going to get a hold of guest vouchers and really make sure my best customers and prospects have those, because I don't get that many per booth. And that would be an example of what a small exhibitor with a very limited budget could do. So I'm a medium exhibit. I'm in a 30 by 50. I got 52,000 into floor space, so my total budget's in the 159 to 260 range, right? So I'm going to at least 15% of that. But I got two additional goals. I have a new product to introduce, and I want to really be seen as a thought leader. So I'm going to do a lot of the same things as the smaller exhibitor. But instead of my mailer, I'm going to do a higher level invitation type mailer. It'll probably be in a priority mail, large envelope, and it'll have some form of hey, give us 5 minutes. Oh, by the way, we got something for you at the booth. Because visibility is important to me, I am getting into the meeting bag insert. It's sold out for this year, but you're playing this for the long haul. I am going to, this new product, I'm going to book a vendor workshop so I can really present it in a hands-on format. Because I want to be tied to thought leadership, I'm going to sponsor an educational track, and I'm going to sponsor a corporate symposium. And all of that would fall within that 3 to 5 range. Now, remember we said earlier that your campaign needs to be very consistent. So if I was running a print, you might see this in medical journals, RSNA publications, the official show directory, the show daily, print ad, colorful, large headline, call to action. Then my mailer, I'd be doing an oversized postcard using variable data and a personalized URL. Then for my house list on email, I would be creating a masthead carrying the messaging through, tying in my Perl. And then I would be setting up a microsite, right, that they go to, and when they click it, there's a video host, and they can answer 5 questions. They can get teasers on what's happening at a show, and they can set up a time to meet at our booth. And that would be an example of an integrated campaign using print, using mail, using email, and using the web. Step 7, final piece. I don't do this to do it. I do it to create a system that I can replicate. So I've got to measure what media I used, when it was deployed, how many pieces were mailed, emailed, broadcast, distributed, what my cost of each media was, the number of impressions or the traceable responses, okay? And then I'm going to be stepping back and looking at what worked, and what did I learn from this? How do I make it a little bit better? And how do I turn this into a replicable system I can use for my next show? So we've covered a lot of ground. We're running a few minutes over. There are some questions in the queue. For those of you who have to run right now, please feel free to do so. I apologize, we've run a few over. A lot of content in today's webinar. Make sure that you log into the RSNA Online Exhibitor Education Center. It is your free 365, 24/7 knowledge portal. It's continually growing and expanding. Bookmark it, share it, and access it. So with that, I'm going to take oh, and by the way, if you log off, remember to complete the survey, because we're going to put you in the drawing for the free, the registrant mailing list. All right, let me take a look in the question queue and see what we've got. John, this question will come your way.
All right.
Can exhibitors use the RSNA show logo on their marketing materials?
Yes, our meeting logo can be used on all your marketing materials. We have them available in the service kit and can be found under free promotional tools, and we have different versions, including a couple other letterheads and other web templates for your use. So definitely pick and choose what works best, and we encourage you to download them and use it as see fit.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. There's several questions here. I'll try to hit them. Someone asked me, give me an example of an effective get this by visiting the booth. Well, you got to be careful in the medical space because there's the Sunshine Act, and there's PharmaCode and AdvaMed, and there's all these different codes. So typically, you want to understand if any of those apply, but you want to make your get a takeaway that is educationally based. So sometimes it's about practice management, sometimes it's about patient care. So your get might be, give us 5 minutes at, you'll see, do, learn, get, oh, by the way, we've got this great 7 ways to improve patient care. So the get would be a learning-based thing, not just a general, like a tchotchke or a squeeze ball or a pen or whatever, but something of value that's going to have takeaway value and going to deliver. Remember, they want useful content. Someone asked, what is the appropriate number of staff in the booth? 50 square feet of open space per staffer. Okay, John, are there any thoughts or tips that you might have for international companies as they budget for RSNA? Is there anything specific that comes to mind for international exhibitors?
Well, I'm trying to think off the top of my head what will be different. I mean, when it comes to marketing, I think it applies the same across the board. We're talking about logistics, of course, so please give me a call. I'll be more than happy to walk through it. There are differences in doing trade shows in the United States as compared to maybe Europe or Asia. But I think when it comes internationally, I think that they do come across the board, even though there may be cultural differences and acceptance among the different groups. I think marketing works the same across the way, and I think you outlined a great program for them. We do have a large international base of attendees. About 38-40% of our attendees are international as well, too. So definitely a large marketplace for you to reach at our meeting. And I'm sure there are cultural differences, but unfortunately I cannot specific on that.
Yeah, John, I would kind of echo what you said there on the international. I think when a company is exhibiting abroad, I think first of all, they definitely have to look at the customs and cultures of the country they're exhibiting in, or different ways that people relate. Then I think they've got to look at customs in terms of getting products and equipment and displays through security, stuff like that. I think you got to give more time to do all this, more lead time, and I think you should pad your budget more because things, costs are different, so pad your budget a little bit more. I think those are some good fundamental things that would help an international exhibitor. The next question I got is, do you think attendees actually pre-book demo appointments at the show? My answer is yes, but it's not the easiest thing to get. Remember, if what you're talking about is relevant to them, they'll notice it. If it's important to them, they'll engage. If the experience at the booth is limited in availability, that will increase, like you only have X number of demos available, private demos available during the show. That'll help you increase. But remember, there's two types of commitments you can get too. A confirmed appointment is, Tuesday at 2 p.m. A verbal commitment is equally compelling, where the visitor says, yes, I'm coming to RSNA. I can't nail down the exact day and time, but I will definitely be by to see your booth. So I think I would, go for the confirmed appointment, but also set it up for the fallback on the verbal commitment. Next question someone's asking is, how do pearls work? A pearl is a personalized URL, and there's software and companies out there that can create these for you. So what it'll do is it will take the person's name and it'll put it into a unique URL, and each of your targets has their own URL. And when people have their name on a URL, there's an intrigue factor there that tends to increase the click-through rates. So just go on to Google and do companies that do personalized URLs. You'll find everything you need there. And then finally, last question, and we'll wrap. Should a company keep to their colors for display or surprise with new or related colors? Great question. I think the first thing that you got to look at is, are there any corporate branding guidelines in play that you might violate? Start there. Many companies have, especially the larger companies. But I do like the idea of changing up the color scheme. You go to a lot of these medical shows and blue and white and blue and white and blue and white, and after a while you go visually numb to it. And so I think if you have the ability to use splashes or swatches of really bright, out-of-the-box colors, it'll definitely stand out. But again, check with your corporate branding guidelines and make sure that's something that is doable within those limits. This last question here, John, we'll close with this, was, will RSNA ever offer the emails with the pre-reg list?
Well, it's something that's definitely considered each year. We are opening up different opportunities to reach our membership via email through sponsored emails through RSNA, but due to our board policy, it's not currently under consideration. I'm not sure if it's just RSNA or medical in nature, but I've come across a lot of medical shows that email addresses are not permitted due to the the nature of their work. So at this time, I unfortunately don't have the answer. I don't think will be changing, but we are looking at different ways that you can reach our audience electronically.
Okay, yeah, and you know, John, I work with, over the course of my career, 260 shows, and very few are in fact, I'm not sure any are giving away email addresses today, and so it's really hard to do. But you know, again, if you use a good integrated campaign, if you work your house list, you already have those email names in your house list, your customer, prospect, suspect. If you work that list and then you use the pre-reg mail list and you really drill it down to the profile match, and you do a really well-designed value proposition, you will get your fair share. Okay, we've run 10 minutes over, very engaged audience, a lot of questions, a lot of action on the polls. I want to really thank everybody for coming out, hanging with us today. It's my hope that you not only learn something, but that you do something with what you learn, because if you will, we can close today's webinar by wishing you a highly successful show. Be sure to tune in for our next webinar upcoming on lead management. Very important topic. So John, thank you, everyone at RSNA. Thank you, exhibitors logging in. We will see you at the next webinar, and we'll see you at RSNA 16 very soon. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks.